Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Led by Life. We're your hosts. I'm Rafaela. This is Hannah. Welcome to the Led by Life podcast. It's been a minute. Hannah and I were catching up. I feel like this is kind of how we start, but as always, such a moment to appreciate like our energies and how they show up and really honoring that of one another. I think that that's been a really beautiful thing. So I just want to preface that because it seems like lately I start and we come on and I'm like, it's been a while, we're back.
And I feel like I said something to you in a voice message the other day. Like, I feel like we're both learning through this process how to honor our energy. And perhaps at the start, like with all good intentions, we were like, let's record every week and
Yeah.
we can do this. And we had so much motivation and momentum because it was fresh and exciting. But I think we've really kind of sunk into honoring our manifestor energy, like in amongst all the other commitments that we have on our plate, which I know both of us are navigating how we can like still operate in the world, but really like move to our own rhythm. So I think we're learning it in process with this podcast.
Yeah. And I actually took a peek at I didn't like really watch any of our previous episodes, but I was just kind of like looking through our catalog. And then I was like on our Instagram. If nobody knows, we have an entire Instagram. I think it's so beautiful. And I really actually want us to like keep going on that in whatever season is next when we get there, right? Um, because it really is so aesthetically pleasing. And today I kind of had like a quick little dive into like all these other facets of the chart. And Colin, I'm going a little bit on a tangent. Let me get back on. Yeah, so I was looking through our catalog of videos and I didn't really play any, but I'm just visually looking at you and I'm looking at me and I'm looking at like where we're sitting and like our backgrounds and things like that. And I was like, and I sent it to you. I was like, wow, like what a journey. I can't recall like what year right now that was when we started, end of
Well, it was
2021.
over 2 years ago because I was living in a different place, different apartment. I know you've moved. I feel like you've moved twice.
I
I think you moved
have,
and then you moved
I have,
states.
yeah, I have
Yeah.
moved twice. And just like,
So life has just happened.
and how we look and just, you always have those moments where you look back on yourself when you're recording, you're like, oh, like kind of inside cringing a little bit. And I notice I make these faces that I'm just like, why does my face look like that? Like I'm not in pain, but my face will be like I'm in pain or something. But I think it's like I'm deep.
Really?
What?
Is it like a serious face?
It's
Or
super
like,
serious. And like the way my mouth like is constricted and stuff, I'm really gonna work on like relaxing my like facial expressions. Someone pointed
yeah.
out the other day I was like making a weird face and we were all on Zoom and they're like, rough.
Yeah. I've had that my whole life. People are like, "What's wrong, Hannah?" And I'm just concentrating. I'm just like in this concentration phase, but it comes across as serious. And like, we'll talk about this next chapter because this is the shadow of the 46, but it's like been coming up so much for me lately. And
Mm.
it's like, just stop taking it so seriously. Even if I'm not, it's just my facial expressions are reflecting that.
That's gonna be a good one because just that term like seriousness,
Mm.
I don't have the 46, but you do, and it's a big part for you, right? Um, but I've always taken life just so seriously. Everything's so serious. I always think of that. Um, it's kind of it's kind of scary, but I don't know if you've ever seen The Dark Knight, the Batman
No,
movie. Oh,
dark for me.
it's like one of my favorite movies. And the Joker in there, and he's like, why so serious? A little bit more serious than I just was, but
You're right.
what?
Heath Ledger, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Mm.
But yeah, we're back. We were just talking
Yes.
about how like we're in the midst of eclipse season and
Feeling it.
feeling it. Yeah. I was telling some friends yesterday that I'm typically an emotional person. I have an open solar plexus, you as well. Like we're quite sensitive. And I learned today that actually having an open spleen makes you quite a sensitive person as well, which we both have. And yours is
Yeah,
totally open, right?
totally open.
Totally open.
And I said to you before we got to work, I have these moments. I was literally crying on the floor last night, like literally crying on my knees, like, why am I like this? Because I just pick up so much, and I told you, like, I spent time around a lot of people yesterday. I went to an event and I just felt it, like I was just holding it all still. And that's like kind of on me. I know by now that I should cleanse, and I have practices to help me do that. So like that's kind of my fault. But the feeling was like, why am I like this? And it was just like almost resistance against my nature. But
Mhm.
then at the same time, there's like, I wouldn't want to be anyone else or any other way, Like I think
Yeah.
that's been a big part of this journey, has been like coming into acceptance of who I am, and
Hmm.
like actually seeing the gifts in that.
Hmm.
Like maybe because we are deconditioning, we're like removing all these things that we thought we needed to be in order to fit in. And perhaps this really relates to like the tribe and,
Yeah.
uh, what do they call it? Like homogenization,
Right.
And so we're like removing these layers. But at the end of the day, like you're getting to kind of fall in love with yourself, your true nature, as you start to like peel back those layers. So yeah, there's like this contrast of like, why am I like this? But also like I wouldn't want to be anyone else?
Right. Because what I think of is like in every why am I like this, it's like, oh, like I get a gift out of this.
Yeah. And
You
I was
know?
born to be, this is like what the universe intended for me, you
Yeah.
know? So tell me about the 45th, because this is a big part of your design. This is one of the only manifested channels.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you, as an ego manifester, have this channel defined, the money line. Is that what it's called? Channel of money.
Channel money. Hmm.
I am also an ego manifester, but I do not, because I have that indirect connection. So yeah, what do
Right.
you, I want to hear from you about this.
Well, I was kind of like gathering a whole bunch of little pieces today. And at this point, because of the timing of things, like I've now read this chapter like 3 or 4 times. And a few weeks ago, I was like, oh, wow, like this is really spot on. And of course, every time we come to a chapter, somehow like the synchronicity of how it resembles life is just there. So now I'm not surprised by it. I almost like expect it. And it's like
Mhm.
now it really feels like I'm on the ride of the roller coaster and I know exactly because I've already sort of been on it in a way. But anyway, um, so the 45th, not only is it one of the only like manifested channels, but for
Mm.
me, being an ego authority, so my heart's defined as connected to my throat through this channel. And then just having the manifestor energy around initiation, starting things, right? This is a channel, and not only a channel, but this is a gate that is so much correlated to um, leadership
Yeah.
and
It's a
taking.
tribal, it's in the tribal circuit. So it's the ego circuit, but part of the bigger tribal circuit. Yeah.
Hmm. And you know, for me in my career, like what I do for work, there is a lot of emphasis right now around um, let's say like leadership.
Mm.
And in the past maybe year or two, I've really moved forward a lot in my own leadership, whether it be in the way in which I actually like communicate or in the way in which I like interact with a team, um, the leadership that I've taken in my own life, like being the leader within for myself. And something that also I was reading and like just looking over today is that the the 45th is the voice because it's in the so it's in the throat center,
Yeah.
right? And it the voice, and it said that all of the channels in the throat center are connected to a particular voice, and the voice of this one is I have.
Mm.
And I I recognize that like lately I've been able to sort of speak a little bit more like I've noticed that my authority is actually like my strategy and authority is coming out more and like without me necessarily um like really thinking about it. Like the other day I just said I've decided I'm going to have this by this time so that I can do this. And
Mm.
that to me now is like really representative of me being in my energy and my honoring my strategy and authority. And so with this whole 45th of leadership, when I think about like the tribe and communities, and it has this like archetype of like king, queen, emperor, empress kind of really being able to know what resource how the resources should be distributed within a tribe. And I remember talking to Nikki actually when I was first learning and we were working together and everything. I was telling her, growing up for a little period of time within my family, not that I was like the one bringing in all the money because I was literally an adolescent, so I wasn't doing that. But there were times where people would reach out to me and ask for money.
Yeah.
And back then I probably didn't really think much of it. And in my relationships, I've also been the like most of my intimate relationships actually, I've always been the one to have more income. And I at some point shifted from seeing this negatively to really honoring the fact that like, oh, this is just part of my energy. Like this is
Mm.
just part of my like, you know, what makes me me and kind of honoring it and not placing judgment on somebody else for the fact that like they're asking me for money, right?
Mm.
And I say money because that's one of the main things that I've been asked of, but I also remember when when I was first learning human design that this 45th is really more than just money, it's really resources. Um, and I've always
And
go ahead.
oh, sorry, I think he really explains that well at the beginning. He kind of gives us this insight into like where this focus as a tribe, as a culture has come from money, because he talks about how it's really about food, and human beings have to eat in order to survive. And food is symbolic of power. And then, now in this modern civilization, it's about money, because money is what can buy you any resources really. But that's actually just not true.
Yeah,
um, because not all resources are material.
right.
Um, yeah,
Well, and then you reminded me about how like in the shadow expression of this, so the shadow is dominance, the gift is synergy, and the city is communion. And you're reminding me how in the shadow there's where we came to build hierarchy
yeah,
and how that gets translated into either our tribes or in our businesses or in our communities, corporations, and thereon.
yeah,
Yeah. And really, when you move into the gift, we move from, and I might not pronounce this correctly, but we move from hierarchy to
heterarchy,
heterarchy,
heterarchy, however it's said.
however it is that, right?
Yeah,
And that one, that is more of this expression of still being somebody who can see from the top and can be the leader, but it is so much more from a place of serving than it is
yeah.
of control and dominance.
And trust, like trust in other people to also be able to like take care of themselves. That's something I really kind of got from this as well, is about like empowering other people.
Yeah.
And, not to like go on a tangent here, but this kind of gave me, when you read through the gift, um, there was a bit I highlighted. You have to gather together the people who you trust, and then you have to give them their freedom to pursue their gifts without interference. And he's talking about like empowering other people to become self-sufficient. And it really made me think of that book that you got me onto, The Soul of Money, which I'd love to
Ah,
read again. I read it once and then I started reading it again with Alex. And she was talking about like how aid often fails because, these like rich countries will go into these like poorer countries or where there's poverty, and lack of resources, and just give them resources, but
mm,
then they're not like teaching them and empowering them how to take
mm.
care of themselves. So it's almost like that dynamic of, and you probably know this, as a therapist, like that dynamic of like rescuing and,
And
um, yeah.
yeah, and you just reminded me another thread here is that the 45th is really built on this sense of education. And when
Mm,
you educate those around you to then empower themselves, everybody sort of fits their role. And I believe this is where we get that expression of synergy. So like
yeah.
we're all coming together in our own unique way to do the best we can with the resources as each of one is given. And in that there can still be a leader. There can still be someone who kind of, because it's interesting in the
We need those people who are the natural leaders, to
yeah.
step up and to give guidance and direction. Yeah, go ahead.
In the if anybody has the human design app, and if you go in for the 45th, because I have it as a gift, right, I can see it. And as we were like preparing for this to be the next episode, knowing what I know like that's going on in my personal life with my job and all of that, there's this 45th is also seen as somebody who can bring the people together for a common cause. And
Mm.
that's one of the things that I was like noticing in the past couple weeks is that I really do have this ability to, when it's coming from my heart, when it's really coming from a place of genuineness and empowerment and true stewardship and leadership, I I do feel as if there is this ability to set the stage for all of us to be on a common ground of like what the goal is. And I've been so like honored with that opportunity, and it's been really such a joy. Um, and I'm kind of really excited to see where it kind of continues to go.
Yeah. And
Mm,
I'm kind of getting this feeling that like synergy is really about, it's like not placing judgment or power on the roles that we play.
mhm,
It's not like putting one above the other. Like, whereas hierarchy is like, I'm better than you because
right.
I'm higher up, right? And I have more power
Hmm.
and more resources and all the things that come with that. But whereas synergy, it feels like, okay, we're just like all naturally playing our part. And some people are just more inclined to kind of step up and be a leader, but it doesn't put them above the other people.
Right.
It's like all equal. And I'm really also getting this feeling that like this is the whole purpose of human design, is so that we can differentiate, and so that we all get to play our role, and no one role is better than the other. Like certain people might feel disempowered by their human design when they first find out about it. Oh damn, I'm not a manifester. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm a, whatever. Like, oh, I'm a reflector, how sensitive or whatever. But
Yeah.
like, I don't I don't think people realize that like being a manifest is like not an easy role to play,
Hmm.
in this culture that we live in, because like you and I are learning, like we're just, our energy wants to move so differently than the way that we've all been conditioned to operate. And so, it just kind of go back to that point about like having acceptance and love for the design that we uniquely have. It's like, okay, well, this is bigger than me. This is the role that the universe intended for me. It's not like I'm not here to be better than anyone else or less than anyone else, you know?
Hmm. I like that you brought that up because I wanted to share this piece. Synergy involves an entirely new way of thinking that is so alien to our current culture that at present it is challenging for the mass consciousness to even conceive of. And
Mm.
sometimes I do feel like, you know, there will be moments I'll meet random people, and I don't know if this correlates to this energy, but it's just coming to mind right now. And I'll uh I'll ask them like, we'll get to know each other. We'll go through those like lower chakra questions. Where are you from? What do you do? This and that, right? And I'll get to this point where I'll be like, well, if you could like do anything, like what would you do?
Yeah.
And people are always like they can't fathom this question, and they oftentimes then we start getting into a little bit of a debate because I'll challenge like either the system that they're in, or I'll want them to challenge the system that they're in so that they can then do this thing. And this made me think of that because the way in which we probably currently operate within business, within tribes and communities, probably not probably is more so of where there is this layer of hierarchy where it's
Mm.
um like a triangle upward, not the other way around. And that can be really confronting to people who have just been in a particular system operating for that way for so long, that to give other people the autonomy and the independence to make decision and to be part of that process for the greater whole is probably quite frightening.
Right. It's almost like the timid, repressive nature,
Hmm.
right? You know, like just succumbing to the hierarchy, to the, yeah, like compromising your own autonomy and freedom. And it also made me think of this thing that he said, like every single human being is an unconscious participant in the world we see around us. No one escapes the hierarchy unless they decide to reverse evolution and go right back to the hunter-gatherer roots. Where then do we go from here? I don't know. I feel like he then goes on to say something about like we almost have to completely reimagine everything. Like everything has to be reimagined for this
Well,
new
I think
era, the
it
new.
right, and that was one of the other parts in here that he was basically saying like the way we know things as they are, how they were set up, if they're not, if they're based out of fear, they will crumble.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I mean, we can just think about what's going on right now globally and in, you know, everywhere, basically, right? Um, but I do sense that there is a shift, and I do think that people with a manifestor energy specifically, and everyone will have their role, but sort of here to like spark that light.
Yeah. I get that sense too. And like they say that manifestors are a dying breed. Like perhaps we won't be needed so much in the new paradigm because,
Mm.
you know, maybe everyone's going to be operating as they're supposed to be and they won't need these big sparks of um initiation. Perhaps, I don't know. Who know? No, none of us know what it's going to look like, but um, like perhaps that's what we're really needed for at this time.
Yeah,
But I also want to say, like, I think it comes down to an individual level as well. Like, I think everybody needs to start like taking responsibility for their lives, and we are like that's what this whole system is about. Becoming sovereign, becoming your own authority. So I want to hear now, like, tell me about your authority because it is quite literally this channel
Oh
is
yeah.
your, and it's very rare. Like ego manifestors are very, very rare. They're like 1% of the population. Maybe it's a bit more than that too. I don't know. It's not much. It's very rare.
I was like looking, I had some notes written down earlier. Um, I wrote something, keyword support, expects it from other natural position of leader guide I need to have. Because I have, because I have the whole channel and the definition in the heart and the throat,
Mm,
it is said that I have the ability to not only know what others need, but to know what I need and what I have or don't have, and how that will then best support the others, right? Because again, like in here, we really are in tribal
mm,
energy. Um, and I will say that since coming across human design and really honoring my authority, right? This is authority. So informing, no. So
So
the
this is
thing is,
an interesting point because it's not informing, but you do inform,
so
right? And
yeah, because for me, the strategy and the authority are like one and the same.
right, because manifestors, and I heard like this is maybe controversial, but I heard Ra say in a talk recently that I listened to that like we don't actually have a strategy. It's almost like forced upon us so that we can like operate with other people. Because manifestors like can just go off and do their own thing, but it's the informing that then like either gets people out of your way or like brings people along with you.
Okay, yes. So like,
So yes, it is part of your informing because it's your connection to the throat.
so it's what pulls the desire out. You know what I mean by that? So like,
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
okay,
I think
because I have ego authority, right? I'm meant to honor like the things that I need, the drive, the passion, the want, the desires, what the heart wants, what like the highest self of the ego wants, right? For me, that's all correct. And it so happens that in that process, once I come to that, the informing is like the next step. Like it has,
mm,
like it comes together. Like, you know, and what I was going to say is how this has shown up is that I've quite literally, and before I even knew that this was a thing, when in my last relationship, I was like going through a journal and I come across this page, and this page was like, it said, I want, I want, I want, I want. It was a list of all of these wants that I wanted. And I'm
yeah.
sitting there and I'm like reading this list, and I look at the time I was looking at my ex and I was like, oh my gosh, I have everything that's on this list. I have it. It's been
Mm,
in my life. And that's it's always cool when you like reflect back and then there's parts of you that you recognize you had been doing all along, and then human design just kind of like confirmed that you were like you're doing the correct thing for yourself. And so now I've just like how it back to your question, like how it shows up is I really try my best not to control what's going to come out of my mouth to the best of my ability in the nicest way. I said that kind of intensely, but with anything, right?
If you just let what wants to come out be expressed, it will be the right words. And it won't always be what other people want to hear,
Yeah.
but that's actually what they might need to hear.
Yeah. And informing just when, like the other day, I made a bold claim out loud, and it felt just very correct. There was no thought about it. I wasn't like laying there thinking like, oh yeah, this is what I want my life to look like in 2027. because when I sit down and think about that, that doesn't work for me. Also because I've like been doing a little bit more study here and there, and my incarnation cross basically says like you don't need to plan. You are not going to plan your life. You have to follow flow. And if I'm following my flow, then whatever's coming out of my mouth is just what needs to come out, you know? For good, for bad, for all, but always with love. Um, and and yeah, so it's interesting right now as like, you know, recording the podcast again, another episode, noticing like different things I want to do and create out in the world. And, I'm kind of recognizing right now that like this is actually probably one of my biggest gifts. And it's been one of my most like one of the places in which I've been most insecure and have had
Mm.
like a lot of wounding around because I like
Right?
not any other way because I like as a child like I would say things that I saw that I didn't agree with to adults.
And then would you be punished or like small or made to
Yeah. Yeah.
feel? Yeah.
And that came up like last week and I was talking with a friend and she was like, well, it sounds like really what you've been doing for a long time is like making yourself small. And so
Mm.
a big theme in my life lately has been like being witnessed in my bigness and allowing that to come through. And I think that this is where a lot of that lies in this channel from the heart to the throat. It is a manifestor channel. I mean, Ra had this channel amongst I don't know, I
Yeah.
heard say today recently, I was just listening to something. He had single definition that connected through 11 gates,
Yeah.
something like that.
Oh, I'd have to pull up his chart, but he had yeah. He
Yeah,
also had the channel that makes my authority, the 2551.
right, right. So, that's a side note, but
Earlier, did you want to continue before
no, go
I?
ahead.
Well, I wanted to say that, like, we have to recognize if we're going back to ego authority, like, in order to have ego authority, you must also not have a defined sacral because you can't be a manifester with ego authority. Sorry, you can only be a manifester with ego authority, or ego. What's it called? I'm just like blanking. Self-projected. No, that's not it. Ego projected.
Mm.
There's a very small number of projectors who have ego projected. I'm just gonna like put it out there. I'm extremely tired today because I
Oh,
didn't
you're
sleep well.
good.
So I'm like not working as I'm not as sharp as I would usually be with this stuff. But I just wanted to point out that like in order to have ego authority, you need to have an undefined sacral, an undefined spleen, and emotional center because otherwise you would be if you had your heart defined and you had this channel to the throat, but you also had a defined spleen,
Hmm.
you'd be a splenic manifester. If you had your emotional center defined, but you also had this channel, you would be an emotional manifester.
Emotionless. Wow.
And so that's like Ra, he was a splenic manifester, but he also was an ego manifester. And I've heard him refer to himself as an ego manifester and splenic because he had splenic authority, but he had this definition, the channel to the throat, the heart to the throat. And so, I'm kind of going off on a little tangent here, but I just think it's really important because this is like the strongest voice in your chart.
Literally.
Yeah.
The only channel that connects the throat to the heart center.
Right. And other people will have different experiences of this because, like, my husband has this channel as well, but
Mhm.
he's an emotional manifester because he also has a defined root, spleen, and emotional
That's
center.
right.
But I think the emotional center is what, like, is the most dominant in terms of authority.
Mm.
I don't know the, like, technical all that when it comes to like what creates your authority, it's something like that. But yeah, I just think it's important to point out because everyone's going to have a different experience of this i- if they have it defined depending on like where else there is definition. If there's a split definition, you might have like couple of different voices and couple of different like parts of you that are operating. But for you, this is it.
This is it. And not
You.
till now, I've been thinking as you've been talking this whole time, I'm like, it's about time that I freaking like honor this gift and this gate and like
We need it.
out.
Yeah.
And I'm just feeling more confident in it. And um, obviously there's been a lot of reprogramming and a lot of um healing that has had to undergo in the last year or two, really, for this to come about now for me. And I'm just really excited to see where it goes next.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun stuff. Hmm. But anyhow, we'll see how it continues as we inch further into eclipse season and keep going.
Yeah.
What I was
Tell
telling
me.
you earlier, you were like we were in the midst of it, and I was gonna say, yeah, and I'm not typically one who like will cry for days on end, and for things that I can't even understand in the moment. But lately, it's like one moment I'm crying, and the next moment I'm fine, and I'm like enthused and optimistic and ready to roll, and then like 3 hours later, I'm hysterical again. It's just been the most interesting thing the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
We're-
I was going to ask, like, what's in a nutshell, what's been your experience? But that's probably it of eclipse season. And like, for me, it's been just like pulling everything up, digging. It's like digging everything up to look at it. And I know that that's like what's necessary, but it's just so uncomfortable because the human has to navigate all the emotional and
Yeah.
like just also physical, like even just being exhausted in a physical body today, like exhausted, but still showing up. I still want to be here, um, and I think that's like there's really a difference between like honoring when you just feel like now is just not the right time to do something,
Yeah.
like how we've been kind of honoring our energy and what we've been moving through. And then I think there's just sometimes where you've got to just still show up, but like with that presence and like that imperfection, like
Mhm.
I'm just here and it just is what it is. Um, but I will say as well, like I have a week until my birthday. And so I'm
Right.
closing out a 7 year cycle. I'm turning 35 next week. And, for me, it's just felt like a real ending, like a real
Mhm.
conclusion. Like, okay, the last of everything, we're going to pull it all back up so you can finally see it and witness
Yeah.
it and let it all go now.
Well, and we're in a ninth year.
Are we?
Yes, I was just the girls I was talking to yesterday. Um, it
Oh,
came up in
yeah,
our conversation.
25. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're ending a cycle in the year of endings.
Full ending.
Full
And
on.
I felt the like new things coming. This
Mhm.
and it's like, and this is perhaps where to pull it all back full circle, like what we were saying at the start of the conversation about like coming into acceptance for the way we are. Like, I feel like I'm just leaning into that unknown at the moment.
Mhm.
Like, I know there's something coming. Whatever wants to come through me will like impact the people it's meant to impact or create whatever is needed to be created, but I don't know what it looks like, and I can just be okay with that and like just be in the process of clearing the clutter to make space for it.
Letting life lead the way.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
that's right. Well, I'm so appreciative for this conversation and for you and for this journey. And we'll be back with the 46th around your birthday.
Yeah,
Yeah,
vessel love season.
absolutely. Well,
Yeah. See
we
you
love you
then.
all. Thank you. Good night.